What is up? What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Bearded Browns podcast. Today we have a special guest. You guys see him right there, draft expert Brian Bosarge from the Draft Countdown. We definitely all know what it feels like for the Browns to be in a draft in the first round. Seems like forever, right, gentlemen? We could all agree to that. Unfortunately,
way too
That's
long
why-
without a first rounder.
yes, and that's why we're bringing Brian in here today to give us some insight and hopefully tell us what the Browns could possibly do, because we definitely know we're not draft experts. And Brian, we need you desperately to tell us what the hell the Browns are going to do this year. But before we do that, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a born and raised in Mobile, Alabama, home of the Senior Bowl. So that's probably what started my draft obsession. I went to my first Senior Bowl in 1987. I'm old, guys. It is what it is.
I was 2.
I was 8. So, I mean, yeah. I started my own website. I followed the draft. I have not missed a televised pick of the NFL draft since 1990, which was the first year I got cable. So, and then I haven't missed a pick since. So I've always kind of been into the draft. I started my own site in 2012, Deep Fried Draft. It sounded like a cool Southern thing to do. We deep fry everything, right? So it worked. Got my cousin to draw up this cool logo with a football with a chicken bone come out of it. And went from there, met some really cool people at the Senior Bowl, and in 2021, Scott Wright reached out to me and a handful of others that we had become friends with and said, hey, he wasn't going to do Draft Countdown anymore. Draft Countdown started in 1997, one of the oldest draft sites out there, exclusive NFL draft sites. He didn't want to see it die, but he wasn't going to continue doing it, so we kind of took it over, and we've been regrowing it strong ever since, and here we are. We've now got a staff of 4 people that write for us, and we put out daily content 9 months out of the year, mostly draft related, some NFL related, but it's just been a good time, man.
Well, you just burned the one question I had for you.
No, you got me a couple. You got me a couple new ones though. So a couple things. First, we were just talking before we went live, and I was like, I swear I remember NFL draft. I remember Draft Countdown from so long ago, from like way back in the day, and I was like, and I don't really know when it started, but my brain is telling me that it's much older than I'm thinking, because I remember that being one of the first draft sites I ever like had access to, and when I was just first getting into the draft, which was also a long time ago. And then second, you mentioned being from Senior Bowl country, which does seem like the type of place where that's such a big event, it would reel you in pretty young. But so I remember for a while, right? Former Browns GM Phil Savage,
Yes,
was kind of running the show over there, and that's kind of that's when I remember getting the most into the Senior Bowl, was after Phil Savage left and took over that position. All of a sudden, I just became more aware of it, and it became kind of a bigger deal for me. So that's kind of interesting that was part of your backstory.
Yeah, Phil Savage took over the game. I can't remember the exact year, but he grew it from what it was to basically being the premier game, where the Senior Bowl was the cream of the crop. And then Jim Nagy came in and took it to just a whole other level. I hope Fabianich or whatever his name is, I'm not 100% sure. I hope he continues it going in that great direction, because I'm going to be honest, fellas, Mobile sucks, and it's really the only thing we got here. So I don't want to see it go away.
Can't
So,
take
Brian,
that away for you.
Yeah, I have a buddy that is a huge Alabama fan, and I see you got a lot of Cincinnati stuff in the background. I'm cool with that. But if you say Roll Tide once on this, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I will not say that
No, you're good.
on this air or ever, to be honest. Now, my wife is an alumni of the University of Alabama, so I can't, full on hate. But I am not a fan of the Tide. I am a South Carolina fan, though, weirdly enough. That just sort of happened. Same with the Bengals. I'm not from either place, but, I was the kid that liked to be different. And it doesn't get much different from Mobile, Alabama, than being a Bengals fan and a South Carolina fan.
Yeah, we're all diehard Browns fans in my house, but my stepson is a Bengals fan for life. That's before Burrow even, so I got to give him the props for it.
Yeah, my youngest son, he's a Baltimore Ravens fan, so we just don't talk during football season. I told him, Coke. But he's always been that way. He's just never been a bandwagon guy. So if you got a team that you're going to roll with them. And he has been with them ever since he was like 8, 9 years old. He's about to be 21. He's coming up in age. So we're good. We have fun. We were at a Cleveland game one time when we were playing the Ravens. It was at home. He was with my dad, like way across. Like I knew what section they were in, but you can't pick out heads that far away. And I was texting. That was the game we ended up winning because I was with some people down there too. So I got to text them back and forth like, Lamar just went out. Huntley's coming in. Miles just sticking to the end zone, dude. You guys are not looking good today. But so we enjoy that. We have a little camaraderie.
I've gone to one game in Cincinnati, and I may not go back because I know the experience will never be as good as it was. I went to the wild card game where they ended the 31-year playoff streak. And that's the only game I've ever been to in Cincinnati. And so it's like,
stop while you're ahead.
You're really not going to top that experience in that stadium, I don't believe. I've gone to several games. I mean, because they play the Saints not often, but, New Orleans is a 2-hour drive from here. So anytime they play there, I'll go make a weekend out of it.
You left Paul Brown Stadium on a high note.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get into it a little bit, right?
That's good.
We have just a series of topics, are pretty open-ended, and we wanted to leave some room for, just to kind of get into some things if the question allows for it. But we just kind of wanted to open up with your knowing a little bit about your draft philosophy, how you kind of set your own big board, which, if I remember correctly, is it 350 players? What kind of a psychopath? Who trades 350 players? Everybody's like, here's my top 100. And Brian's like, or what if we did 3.5 times that many?
So
I saw your top 100. So I just want to know, where do you even start that process?
We actually start the year with around 1,200 names. Now, obviously, I'm not watching 1,200 guys, but we start the list at 1,200, and YouTube TV is great because you can just set that baby to record every college football game. So you can watch however many you want a week, watch 1, watch 40, whatever. I mean, I work a full-time job, so it's not like I have all the time in the world to do this. I wish I did, but that's not, not optionable right now. But it's just, you watch a little bit, watch enough, and then, spare time, watch more, and then come to your conclusions. I'm not the best at this. Obviously, I have weaknesses, especially when it comes to judging the secondary. I struggle with that on a yearly basis. I've tried to get better. It's just not something I'm very good at. I have a lot more misses with safety and corner than I do, say defensive ends or offensive tackles, right? So I do my best, and in the top Huddle Report top 100 contest, I'm generally getting 80 to 82 of the top 100 picks in the first 100 right. I suck at mock drafts, but everybody does, to be honest. So if you get 8 right in the first round, you had a good night, if you're asking me.
Right.
But I just have fun with it, man. I know I'm not going to be right 100% of the time, but by God, if I've got a player rated high and he goes in the 6th round and that guy has a great career, I'm going to hit that brag every time I can and just try not to talk about the guys I had rated high that bust out of the league in 2 years. But an example of that recently, was it 4 years ago? I had Trey Smith, the guard from Tennessee. He was out of Tennessee. I had him as the 16th overall player in that class. Injuries or whatever heart concerns he had, falls to the 6th round, and he's been just a pure stud for Kansas City. Started as a rookie, as a 6th round pick. So I felt good about that observation.
That's
bingo.
solid.
That was a bingo moment, man. That's bingo, man. You just you hit it, man. And when you got those, you ride with that. Like you said, we all aren't perfect, but when we get those perfect moments, man, it's when you got to let them know for sure.
That's right.
So so piggybacking off that question, because the reason I wondered is because this is not. I mean, an NFL team has their area scouts. They're picking out players, and if this player's not even worth following up on, that they get to whittle down their team by having a huge staff that's cutting these players down in the area, and then they're having their draft meetings with the GM, who's ultimately with them and probably some assistance from the coach putting together his big board. How would your process feel different if you were playing make believe GM for the Browns and you're setting the Browns top? I was told at one point that often like professional NFL teams don't end up even creating a big board with any more than like 200 total players. So you've graded almost twice that many on your big board alone. So how would that process change for you if you were just playing jump in GM for the Cleveland Browns, for instance?
So if you're if I was the Cleveland Browns GM and I have the coaching staff, I know what they're looking for at position groups, be it size profiles, be it athletic testing profiles. You know, what are they looking for on tape? You know what those coaches are looking for. You know what works in the systems that you have. So you can, by process, you can take those 1,200 names I said I started with, and you can whittle that down. Like, okay, if a defensive end's not 6'3", 6'4", 250, cross him off. We're not going any further with it. I don't have that option, right? I got to kind of, just get a general feel for everybody. Also, by doing that, those guys, especially these area scouts and the regional scouts and the cross checkers and all that, they are going to get the all 22 tape of every game sent to them the next day. I'm not going to have that. Luckily you do get some access to it through these guys who have their Patreons, and I don't know where they get it from, but God bless them that they do. You can get some access to that all 22 tape. But mostly I'm going off TV film. TV film obviously is not going to show the whole picture, right? So you're kind of weakened by that just a little bit without using the all 22 with it as well. But they're going to watch every snap of every guy. They're going to be able to pull up, what did this guy do? What did this offensive tackle do on third down? I want to see that. What did this quarterback do? 3rd and 10. Give me every play he had, 3rd, 7+ yards. And they're going to be able to immediately cut that up because they got interns and college nerds and everything cutting that up for them. I don't have that. So it's like I'm limited by what I have. They have basically limitless budgets unless you're the Bengals and you have 2 scouts on the entire team because
so I think it's funny that you're a Bengals fan and that you would be so familiar with that particular thing, because that's a pretty well-known fact.
It's a sore subject amongst the Bengal fans.
Yeah, I have a handful of friends that are Bengals fans, and that's like a little poke all the time. I can't believe you keep getting all these right with only.
I mean, how many scouts do you guys have? Like 47? I mean,
and we still suck. Yes.
I mean, I wasn't going to say
I think the Bengals, I would just say, I think the Bengals are doing a phenomenal job of actually nabbing talent, given the fact that they shortchanged their scouting department so much more than some other.
What the Bengals have done right, better than the Browns, is they have sucked in the right year 3 times.
Yeah.
They have sucked enough to get Carson Palmer at the first pick. They sucked enough to get AJ Green and come back with a solid Andy Dalton. Not great, but enough to win games and make the playoffs. And then sucked it really bad the year they really needed it to get Joe Burrow. So that's
a sore subject, given that we sucked this year, and this is not the draft I would have wanted to come in at number 2. So, but
I'm sure we'll talk about that. But yes,
here really quick, James Frank has a question for you, and this might be a little out of not context, but he says, how crazy do you think it would be for the Browns to take Gianti at 2 or trade up for a few picks to get him? That would be insane. I actually was. Yeah, I was thinking about that myself. Like at the number 2 pick, since Nick Chubb is unknown as of right now. We still have Jerome Ford. It's a possibility. I think a lot of running backs are claiming to be going at rounds 2 and 3 right now. But
if we're gonna do that, no, take Quinshon Judkins at 33. If that's the plan.
That was my mock draft.
Take maybe Travion Henderson's on the board, maybe not. I don't know. Take him. Take Caleb Johnson from Iowa. Absolutely. I mean, and I think Ashton Genty's going to go, not going to go, he's going to come off the board not long after the second pick. Don't get me wrong. But if I'm the Browns, I'm not doing that.
What is it? 6 to the Raiders, I believe.
That seems to be the consensus, but it's there's some it's picking up some steam here at pick 5 as well.
Okay. So you had mentioned that, with you have so much less access to the actual amount of film that the team's scouts and GM would have. So how do you explain the fact that everyone that follows me on Twitter can tell me exactly which players are going to be good and terrible in the draft based on the 1 or 2 games that they saw on Saturday on TV?
The best, the absolute best is you put
Brian's
a mock
face,
draft
dude.
out in September. No way my team's going to take a defensive tackle at pick 5. No way. And this is in September, guys. It's September.
Yes.
I'm just kidding. Brian. I just love the fact that somebody will say something about Milroe became a topic here because we hired Tommy Reese, and somebody's like, I saw that guy play. He sucks. And I'm like, how much could you have actually possibly watched that guy? I just think
by the way,
really
for everybody, I do have Brian's draft countdown website right below. You can check it out. It's all his articles that he's written for them. Written, whatever word. It's there. His link is down there in that section. He's written all of them. I got just your section in it, Brian, so it looks
I'm just
good.
joking. I'm just giving everybody a hard time because this feels like the time of the year where everybody is a draft expert. But I know that I know the amount of time it takes
that you mock to them, and then their team could pick that 1 through 7.
I'd be happy with
first round 7. Great guy, great draft, Super Bowl guys. This is great. Yeah. I don't care. Because that means they read it.
This is the season of speculation, right, Brian? It's all season of speculation up to.
I mean, like I said earlier, you're going to have how many mock drafts out there on Thursday morning?
Angels
and
probably
you're gonna look at 100 of them, and out of those 100, 85 to 86 of them are going to have less than 6 correct teams to players mocked in the first round.
Yep.
It's I mean, Josh Norris from Underdog Fantasy, I think he's still there, a few years ago had 16 of 32. It's never happened before, and I don't know that it'll ever happen again. I think getting a perfect mock draft would be a million times harder than getting a perfect NCAA basketball bracket.
That makes sense. It does, because
well, you got to get the right team, and you also got to get the right pick, and you don't know who's going to have teams
trading in. Yeah.
And we've talked about it before. One pick early in the draft goes unexpected to what you thought, and every pick after that on the mocks is just a mess. But yeah, it's I love the big board. I've always said I favor big boards and grading when I'm looking at players much more than the mocks, because I think a lot of it comes down to insiders get these slightly closer mocks than others because they're hearing stuff from teams. They're not really predicting it. They're getting some feedback from sources that they know. And even then it's so much misinformation out there that it's just wrong.
And a lot of times with the experts that you're talking about getting the, sources, they may have the position right, but the team ends up going with a different player, and they, put that out there to kind of throw some teams. Well, maybe we don't want them to know that we like player X, so we'll tell them that we like player Y, and he'll get mocked to them. And then all of a sudden you're not. It's interesting. It's a dynamic. It's fun. I mean, if it wasn't fun, I would quit doing it. And, it becomes a lot at times. I did step away for a little while earlier this season because it just, my head was about to explode. But once the Senior Bowl season kind of got here, the itch hit me again. So
we got Brett Favre over here, stepping away from the game, and then training camp's coming up. I kind of want to be with the guys.
You said you've watched every draft since 1990. Is that what you had said earlier, right? So, and I was thinking in my head, I'm like, man, that's coax cable days, AOL coming. This guy's been on it for a while, man. So it's like to be that and to stick with it that long, man.
I will completely date myself here, and I'll tell you the links that I would do to keep up with the draft. So I want to say this was, we'll call it the 1995 draft, and maybe 94, 95. But ESPN2 was not widely available at that point in time, right? It was just ESPN. Unless you were in a major market, you didn't get ESPN2. So when ESPN would cut their coverage off on Sunday, this is when the draft was Saturday and Sunday. So when ESPN would cut their coverage off on Sunday, they would go to a NASCAR race. But every 15 minutes, they would pop up on the bottom of the screen the last 10 selections or whatever. So I would literally have a VCR in with a tape and would be recording the NASCAR race so I could back up to see the players that were picked.
Oh, yeah. Screw those left-hand turns. No,
and these days, I just get like a little ping on my phone, and the app just tells me like next pick is up.
Every single pick that was made.
Right.
Or Twitter tells me a minute before the pick actually happens somehow.
Yeah,
that's the best. You're 3 picks ahead on Twitter now.
Yeah, Adam Schefter's already reported this like 10 minutes ago.
That shows your dedication, though. Like I'm saying, like how you just explained that. You're like, well, I'll have to figure it out another way, and I'm going to watch NASCAR. I know they'll throw it at the bottom. That's why I'm recording this, and that's what it's about, man. If you're really passionate about doing something, so that's awesome to hear that, sharing that little piece of history there. I like that.
That is cool.
Mike, you want to take us into the Browns question zone here?
At what position is this draft the deepest with, and what is the best position for top talent than the opposite? Like, where does it fall short compared to typical years for you?
To me, the deepest part of this draft is on the defensive line, be it as the edge rusher, be it as the interior defensive line. I love the depth that you're going to get, especially at edge. I think we're 18. I think we could have 18 edge rushers go in the first 2 days of the draft.
Wow.
I mean, we may see as many as 7 in the first round. Interior defensive line, I think we're going to get 10 to 11 guys in the first 2 days. I mean, these are a deep position group. Offensive tackle, I think, has talent. But with the offensive tackle position, what I think is a lot of this is a lot of guards at tackle this year.
Sorry, Brian. You're like, so we had like questions prepared for you, and you're answering them, and Chad is in here like raging in our notes right now, and I see everything changing. I'm sorry because you're answering.
You literally answered after you were done. I was wondering what you'd say about the tackles, and I had a specific question written here. If he brings up tackles, ask him how many tackles in this draft are going to end up being guards.
I mean, we can get into more details on that in a second, but I do think that is a big thing. The last few years, it seems like everybody raised this is a deep wide receiver group. I think it's down this year at that position. My top rated wide receiver is 22nd, I believe, on my board. And that's Tet McMillan. I have him, Luther Burden, and Egbuka all like 22, 23, 24. I think their grades are it's fit at that point. And that's going to be a key thing we can talk about with this draft class is after the top 10, I think you're going to see a lot of players go that you wouldn't think would necessarily be the 12th best player in the draft going at the 12th overall pick, right? Because there are going to be teams, I've heard chatter that teams like from like 20 to 80 are exactly the same as far as grades go. So it's going to become, how does player fit on our roster, right? How does, the size profiles, the athletic profiles, do we like this guy for what we do? So you're going to see what's going to look like odd picks in the first round, second round. It's going to be it's going to get crazy out there, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I have a quick question for you while we're here. Have you seen quarterbacks dropping in size and weight and everything? Cornerbacks. We've talked about it on the show quite a few times. Cornerbacks getting smaller and smaller.
It's definitely more accepted now. I'll say
Yeah.
that. It obviously it is the case. Like no longer is it a disqualifying offense. I feel bad. Do you guys remember Joe Hamilton at Georgia Tech?
Joe Hamilton.
I do not.
No. Okay. No. Anyway, that was about 10, 15 years ago. Anyway, he was just one of the best quarterbacks in college football, but was 5'10" and 190 pounds. Never got a chance. Wasn't even drafted. Charlie Ward won the Heisman Trophy at Florida State in 1993. Ended up going to the NBA, despite being one of the best quarterbacks in college football. Never got a chance because he was small. That's not a disqualifier anymore. Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Baker Mayfield, undersized cats get drafted all the time now. Bryce Young, so it's now it's all about more. Can you play football? And this goes this goes back to high school now, because every high school, and I blame Texas high schools for this, but 90% of the high schools across America now run the spread offense.
It's easy for Georgia to blame Texas, isn't it?
It's easy to install. It's easy to install. You don't need a whole lot. You run 8 plays, just variations of it out of it. Mike Leach, thank you, Mike Leach, for basically just running 8 plays, but running different routes out of the same 8 plays. And it's a reason his playbook was an index card, guys. It's not a hard concept, and that filters down to the damn Pee-wee leagues. Now they're all running spread. So you're putting your best athletes out there. Your best athlete ends up being a quarterback most of the time. That translates up to college. And then obviously that's all you're going to have to choose from most of the time. The NFL had to adjust.
Yeah. It's becoming more of a thing. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think it kind of does span, like Mike, you were typing, I think it does span positions. Like I'm sure in the NFL has always historically had undersized guys, but I've heard some of the stuff, like you said, where guys just get crossed off the draft board. Like we're just not going to consider this guy. And then you have guys coming in on all sides of the ball, cornerbacks, wide receiver. I mean, you have running backs that are 5'6". You got Tank Dell playing receiver. It just seems like there's, like you said, because of the way the game is played, there's so much more acceptance of potential size differences. They still have some of the issues, but I think teams are just willing to take chances on them because you've just had enough examples of success that they're like, well, we can do what this guy did. So
it's all more gauged towards, like what Brian was saying. It's ability now. It's how good are you on that field? What are you doing? How good are you?
Especially at the wide receiver position. Can you separate now? You've got to create your own separation now. And if you can't, You're not going to make it. And that's why Tank Dell was able to adjust quickly and have early success. Years ago, a guy like Tez Johnson out of Oregon would have never got a shot. Dude's 150 pounds, right? He would have never been drafted. He's going to get drafted.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's
so Brian.
So it's like you said, it's a separation thing now. How quick and it's also how you protect yourself too, man. Because there's a lot of times where you could see a guy could get lit up from high and low, but they know exactly when to get down, and it's a big part of things too that I've watched on some of the smaller receivers and how they're catching and how they're actually protecting their bodies once they got the ball. If they can make a move, they're going to do it, but if they see it coming, they're already making sure that they're not going to get their head took off. So. That's a lot of protection out there on their own part too.
Yeah.
What's that, Mike?
I was just going to say, in high school, I was 6'6", 175 pounds, wide receiver all day. Now that I'm older, I'm 6'5" and 315 pounds, so I'd be like a perfect lineman, but it just didn't work out for me. Unfortunately, that's the way life works. Chad.
Yeah.
You got this? What did you do? Oh, yeah. You want me to do this one or you got it?
No, I got it. So basically I wanted to get into some of your specific stuff, and then we'll get into some Browns specific stuff. That kind of covered some of what I was thinking, somewhat of what I was hearing, but, everybody that's studying the draft, kind of has their own idea of where the strength and weaknesses are, depending on the way they grade or whether they look at strengths as like being top heavy or more depth. But more Brown specific. This could have changed. I think your mock draft came out April 6th, and I think you had a 7-round mock. In that mock, you had the Browns selecting Abdul Carter second overall. But I also took a look at your top big board, and your number one player at the moment you have is Travis Hunter. So I was just wondering, does that still hold steady? And what went into thinking of Carter over Hunter for Cleveland in this case?
They're both game-changing type players. They're both elite athletes. My thinking with the Browns and Abdul Carter is, if I'm the Browns, I look across who I'm going to play 6 times a year. The Pittsburgh Steelers offensive tackles, not good. The Bengals have spent a lot of money in high draft capital on offensive tackles. They're getting there, but they're still not there. The Ravens have had injury issues with Ronnie Stanley and other guys on the outside. I would relish, if I was the Browns, the idea of pairing the best defensive end in football and Myles Garrett with another stud like Abdul Carter. You saw what the guy did in the College Bowl playoff semifinal with one arm. He almost took over the game on defense with one hand. I love that idea. Now, do I think that Travis Hunter could have another just as much of an impact on their defense? Yes. Could he have impact on their offense? Yes. With that, it goes, and this is a team by team thing, and basically it's a 2 team by team thing. It's either the Browns or the Giants. He's not going past the 3rd pick. How do they view Travis Hunter? Do they view him more as 75% receiver, 25% corner, 75% corner, 25% receiver? A team's going to let him play both ways to start. I don't know for how long, but I think they'll let him do it. I like Hunter better as more as a corner. But like I said, this is going to be a team by team thing. I think the Browns might like him more as a receiver. But God, he's instant impact on the offense too, right? He's wide receiver 1 on the Browns team, right? I don't think that's speaking out of school, right? Telling tales out of school there. I like Jerry Jeudy, right? But he's a good 2.
Yeah, so that's another thing. I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of speculation right now is that he would come in here as a wide receiver 1, and I'm like, how are you going to do that with a guy that threw up 1,200 yards last year? Just, I don't see that happening. You coming straight out of college into the Cleveland Browns as wide receiver 1, first game, playing both positions. I just don't. That's me, but
I'm curious to see how that's going to work. Like, he says he wants to do it, and I'm sure he does, but it's going to come a time where an NFL coach can be like, no, this is what you're going to do. This is what we're paying you to do. Sit down, shut up. Let's go.
Yeah, it has to be internal conversations before you even pick him. Like, right. What are we doing with him, and how do we communicate this before we take him? I'm sure in some of the meetings they've talked a little bit about that. At least I would hope. You were right. Andrew Berry did come out in a recent press conference and say we would view him as a wide receiver first, with the ability to contribute at cornerback, which I think is actually the more difficult breakdown. I think a team that views him as cornerback first, it's very easy to throw him in at wide receiver and set up packages. It will be a bigger challenge for them, and at least I would think, to have him as a full-time wide receiver and part-time corner. That seems tougher to distribute, but I guess that's going to be up to them to find a way, as far as like, do we put him in on 3 or 4, corner sets, or how do we do it? Coverages, red zone, something like that.
I actually saw an interesting idea the other day where a guy was putting out the idea of him as being a wide receiver, but on 12 to 15 snaps a game on defense as more of a free safety or an extra DB, roaming the field, reading the quarterback's eyes, because he's so good at that. He's so good at attacking the football when it's in the air. and just trying to take advantage of his skill set that way defensively while, still being, the focal point on offense.
One of your colleagues brought that up the other day, and I cannot pinpoint who it was because come this type of the season, I'm sitting there listening to everybody. I've got McShay going, I've got Brugler, I've got all this Daniel Jeremiah. I've just got background noise coming from everywhere, so I forget who's who. But they had mentioned on offense, they think his ball skills and his ability to kind of like time the ball in the air and then come down with it were his elite offensive trait. And they said his defensive trait was he had a much farther than typical ability at a college level to be able to bait quarterbacks or to be able to sit back and make it look like he's not in the play and then break on the ball for interceptions. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Goes along with what you had just brought up. So that's interesting. I think the nice part about that answer is that looks like two really nice options for the Browns at 2 in a draft where we all wish that there was just a lock at quarterback to take it to. But given that it's such a strange draft as far as like who to take up top, at least it feels like the Browns' top 2 options you would think are both pretty much an immediate game changer on one side of the ball or the other.
Had the Titans passed on Cam Ward, I think he would have been the pick at 2. But since that's pretty much locked in now, he took one visit. So
Yeah.
I think we can pretty much figure that one out.
Nobody doesn't think he's going there, which is so strange because I get it. He's QB1. He's the top pick, but it was very interesting to me that got nailed down so quickly where the Titans haven't come out and just directly said it, but there's like no indication that is not the plan. And they're the only group with absolutely nothing to hide. So I think you're right.
Cam Ward would have been at best the 4th quarterback taken last year. At best.
So you are on that trade because we've heard somewhere between 4th and 6th.
Yeah.
And we always think like
I would have had him over McCarthy, Penix, and Nix. Okay. But far below Williams, May, and or Williams, Daniels, and May. And beyond that, I'm not sure that quarterback 2 in this class would have gone in the top 6 last year.
Which is a reality that a lot of Browns fans are really having trouble coming to grips with because I think early in the draft season in January, right, you probably saw the same. Everyone just assumed quarterback 1 is Ward, quarterback 2 is Sanders. Browns will definitely pick Sanders. And as the process has played out and teams have sort of shed some light on where they have these guys graded and all of these independent draft evaluators from you all the way across the board have come out with the idea of, well, yeah, he's my quarterback 2, but he's not graded anywhere near the top of the first round. Late first round, second is, I think, what we hear most often.
Yeah, so it's an interesting dynamic. Like for instance, on my final big board release this morning, Cam Ward I think was 15th overall. I think he's going to be a solid NFL starter. I don't think he's going to be a great NFL quarterback.
And that brings a lot of that speculation up. Like GMs, as of right now, don't even know what's going to happen. They have zero clue. A trade could happen. For all we know, Tennessee could pick somebody else. Then what do you do with that second pick? It's insane. And I cannot honestly, Brian, are you like one to look forward to the draft being over, or are you still wanting the draft to continue?
I look for I'll say this. I wish they would expand the draft because I love it so much. But I say this, I sleep so hard on Sunday because I will get maybe 3 hours of sleep Thursday night and Friday night. And then because you're right back up Saturday morning starting. And then that's the long day. And then Saturday night, I will crash and then probably sleep till 9, 10 a.m. Sunday morning. So no, but I love the draft, man. I never want it to end. It's just fun for me from that aspect. Can we talk about, I don't want to hijack you guys' show, but I just want to talk about the quarterback I think that y'all may take.
Well,
We wanted
have
to talk
in
about
here.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh no, yeah, that's
Really-
a big topic. Let's hear it.
Really
Who was
quick.
writing the notes here? I think Brian was writing these notes down. He's been slamming them. You've been slamming them, man. Let's go ahead.
One second. I'm gonna pull up our draft party. Our first actual live draft party at JB's Tavern. Everybody come up and join us. It's at 4305 Brook Park Road. We will be there live at 7:30. We have a meet and greet with Ralph Holly, the new defensive tackle of the Cleveland Browns. We're also going to have Stump Mitchell on the show. We're going to have, as well as Barry Shuck. You know Barry, Brian.
I do.
And we are going to have Dustin Cuck from Here We Go Brownies on as well, right after the Browns pick. So feel free to come down to JB's Tavern, join us, have a drink, have some food. They got amazing pizzas. It's going to be a good time. Live draft party, free entry. Ralph Holly will be there in person. And Ro Goldstein as well. That's Stump Mitchell's agent. He'll be down there with us as well. It's going to be a good night. Me, Sam, and Angel will be there. Unfortunately, Chad's in California, so.
We got to
Better
get
weather
that.
out there, right?
Unfortunately.
He rubs in our face all year. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, I was gonna say, except for this particular event, I am a little jealous, but that's why the rest of the year I'm like,
I am jealous not just of the weather, but the time zone. Pacific
hours?
time is the best time zone to watch sports, bar none. College football starts at 9 a.m. on Saturday and ends at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
if you love it, you can absorb so much more of it because while my friends are like falling asleep during Monday Night Football, I'm like Monday Night Football happens at like dinner time. You got plenty of time to watch Monday Night Football. So yeah.
Funny story. I sat up last night and watched a movie till 1:30 in the morning, right? I was like, man, it's 10:30 right now with Chad's at. He's probably just enjoying a cup of coffee. Like, screw Chad. I hated you right before I fell asleep. I'm not going to lie, Chad. I'm like, this sucks. Why can't it be 10:30 here? Why am 1:30? Am I awake watching a movie and Chad's 10:30 enjoying a? Yep. Anyway,
He's
sorry.
right. It's nice sometimes with sports. If you get up in the morning, like it kind of sucked when I was really young because we're out Friday night drinking so much, and then I had to get up to watch the Buckeyes at 9 a.m. Now I'm like, well, I'm up. I'm going to be up at 9 a.m. like I'm just on a weekend. But back when I used to drink probably a little too much, that seemed like quite a task. Now it's like, oh, this is great. I can just start my day, watch some football, and then I've got the whole rest of the afternoon to just choose what I want to do. More games, get on with my day. But yeah, so we had some questions, and I'll just before you get into the quarterback. Yeah, before you get into that quarterback talk, I just wanted to give you a real quick team needs that we kind of put together as a show, and we've noticed all of these different draft sites list team needs, and I was just curious. One of them, of course, is quarterback, and I wanted to know like how you agreed or disagreed with how we perceive the team needs, and then we can get into that quarterback specific topic. The first one we have is quarterback. We need a starting quarterback. Nobody on the planet denies that. We all think we need a starting wide receiver across from Judy. He's got to have another like top level starting quarterback. All of us felt like we need an offensive tackle. I know they're hoping that DeJuan Jones will be the left tackle, but we all think they either need depth because of the injury history or potentially a starting left tackle, and DeJuan can kind of float. And then we all think without Nick Chubb, who's still available, still a possibility, we definitely need running back with or without him to some level. We have David Njoku, but we think we need a tight end to kind of go across from him on 12 personnel, but also eventually David Njoku's later in his career eventually develop into our future starting tight end. And then on the defensive side of the ball, we think we need a starting safety, and we think we need some depth on the defensive line, even though we can kind of field defensive line right now. What are your thoughts?
I tell you, this is the first time I've really kind of like looked deep into the depth chart here, and the Browns' depth was a strong point 2 years ago. It doesn't quite seem that way anymore, right? The starters, I think, for the most part, are solid outside of the quarterback position and the running back position at this point, but the depth has taken a big hit. So you want to get like guys that are going to be raring to go, like starter level players with the first and second pick, maybe. But you've got to how many? Use 10 picks, right? The Browns have 10 picks.
We have 10 left. Yeah, we used one on Kenny Pickett a couple weeks ago.
So 10 picks.
One of our like multiple fifth rounders.
Yeah. So you got that's where you're going to hit your depth, right? Your third, fourth, fifth, sixth round picks. You need depth contributors there, guys that are going to push the guys that are like 45 to 53 on the roster, right? That's what you're going to. A swing tackle, I think, is in play here. Even if you believe DeJuan Jones is a good starter, and I think he could be, you're going to need that swing guy. Maybe that's what they signed Tevin Jenkins for. Maybe they think he's got some tackle juice. He played it in college. He hasn't played in the NFL, but maybe they view that as well at that position. So. Yeah, no, I'm with you on the needs, and like I said, drafting like Abdul Carter at 2 is not a need, but it's just he's so good. So you're not, how do you think you're going to be picking second again? You may not get a shot at another. You hope not, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
You may not get another shot at a blue chip guy like that for years to come, or Travis Hunter for that matter. So.
I'm going to hit 2 of these comments real quick. James says, I seen the picture of y'all at the Here We Go Brownies thing. I was so happy for y'all. Sam looked like a little kid in all his glory. So we met Bob Golick and Ralph Holley at an event Saturday. And it's funny because so Sam was it was at a distillery. I'm going to run this through you real quick, Brian. So we're at a distillery and we're drinking a little bit of bourbon, right? Sam's like, I'm not a big bourbon guy, but man, like that stuff will clear your sinuses. And Bob Golick, and a Cleveland icon, looked at him and was just like, pussy. And I'm like, oh, Bob Golick just called Sam a pussy. And that was the highlight of the night.
Me and him. I hit it off really good with Bob. He was really easy to talk to. You never know what you're going to get at some type of event with a guy like that. He's 67 years old, but soon as we started talking football, he actually stood up out of his seat. We're having full-on conversations. So like later that night, like what Mike just explained was something that happened at the tail end of the night. Because I remember Angel's like, you look like you're already up in Bob Golick's DMs. Like you guys been buddy for years. I'm like, he's just that guy to talk to. He was so easy to talk with, man. And he was listening. He wasn't just, he wanted to engage. So, because I went to work and that was one of my things. I guess we seen you met Bob Golick. I goes, coolest part is Bob Golick called me a pussy. I said that was the coolest part of the end of the night. That was the end of the night. That was like my nightcap for the night, man. So that's something that I always remember. Jokingly, obviously, meaning no harm, but good guy, great night too, man.
Yes.
James
says, I'm sorry, real quick. James says, I sense shame in Chad's voice when he said we use that 5th round to get Pickett.
No, I'm fine with picking up Pickett. I was more thinking like we have like 3 5th rounders and 3 6th rounders at some point in this draft. And all I can think in my head is like, who are you going to pick with this many like day 3? What are you trying to get out of that? Like the only person that knows who those people are on this podcast is the guest.
Right.
I'm sure Brian has some guys that he loves in that podcast. I mean, who he loves at that point in the draft. But by then I'm like, at least I've heard of Kenny Pickett. So I don't know who they're going to pick in the 5th round.
Well, he's an AFC North fan, so he knows who Kenny Pickett is.
Brian, you were going to ask something. You were getting ready to ask.
Is it sad that I associate Bob Golick more with Saved by the Bell the college years than I do?
So, Brian, my wife had no idea who Bob Golick was, right? I pulled up his history and a picture popped up and she's like, Saved by the Bell, I know him. She started freaking out. She got all starstruck.
That's funny.
So it was great.
I think if you're not a Cleveland guy, I would think that it probably is the norm for anybody.
Right.
Born,
it was funny.
Like,
it was
through
cool.
that era. Yeah, that's probably not a shocker.
And he was there looking all GQ with his wife. He was like dressed to the nine. He looked good, man. It was good.
We talked about our field logo that we got on the field now. And his wife is asking questions about it, but we got to the point where I'm like, why is he holding this ball like a loaf of bread? And he was like, doesn't make any sense. He goes, and that one dog face, the meaner dog face, that's something you guys need on that 50. We all need something better than that. So really good night. It was cool to hang out and talk with him, man. And Ralph was a super cool guy too. And Got to meet his buddy that he hung out with since like grade school and stuff too. It was a really good night. So
can't wait till. So like you heard, we have the draft party Thursday at JD's. It's going to be a great event, man. I wish you could come, Brian. You would love it. It's going to be a good time.
Yep.
Chad, you had something else to add, or was it you,
No,
Brian, that had something else?
I want to hear about this this quarterback stuff, and then I want to get into talking to Brian a little bit about some of his favorite guys around our second, third, and fourth round picks, and then see.
So I am under the guys that you're not going to have 10 picks in the draft. I think they're going to. You've got 2 threes, right?
Yeah,
2, 3.
Right. So one of those threes are going to go with pick 33, and I think they're going to get ahead of the Rams at 26. I think 24 to the Vikings is the spot because the Vikings have 4 picks in the draft. The Vikings aren't staying at 24; they're coming out. I think. You mentioned the connection earlier. I think the Browns are going to trade back into the first round and draft Jalen Milroe from Alabama.
Reckless speculation.
You think that could happen in the first round?
I think.
Wow.
I think it happens in the first round because Jalen Milroe needs a year to develop. That's what you bring. That's what you brought Flacco in for. Flacco starts this year. If he gets hurt, Pickett plays. Milrose sits. Milrose QB3 this year, inactive on game days. Sit, learn. Tommy Rees. Look at the season that Milroe had at Alabama the year Tommy Rees was offensive coordinator and tell me he wasn't a better football player on tape than he was this past season in 2024. Night and day.
That to me is right. That gives you pause. And I think I'm not ever excited about a quarterback who's taken outside of the first round because I just think the numbers are too low on them being an actual successful player. Now, that doesn't mean I want to reach for one, but I want this team to have a quarterback that they want to be their franchise quarterback who is talented enough that they have to get him in the first round, if that makes sense.
And if basing the fact that I say he sits a year, you get the 5th-year option on him late in the first round, so you get that year back, right? If he becomes the quarterback that you want him to be, that you hope he is, you get that extra year on the cheap-ish, especially with what quarterbacks are getting $50 million a year now. To me, Milroe is the best quarterback running the football since Lamar Jackson came into the league. Milroe throws a deep ball as good as any quarterback prospect we've seen in a long time. I mean, you can go back to the 80s. Elway, Marino. This guy can hit the deep ball better. The problem with Jalen Milroe is 0 to 20. He struggles with his accuracy. Unfortunately for Jalen Milroe, that's where 80 to 85% of the NFL game is played. So that is the issue. That's why Jalen Milroe, we're talking as a second-round pick or a late first-round pick and not going number 1 overall to the Tennessee Titans. It's his accuracy 0 to 20. But if you go back to the 2023 tape, he looked a lot better mechanically to me. He's one of the smartest players in this draft class. Dude is like a 4.0 student.
Mm-hmm.
He won the Campbell Trophy this year, which is the academic Heisman. Dude is a genius, right? He's smart, but he's got mechanical issues. I read a quote the other day, and I'm going to paraphrase the quote because I'm not good at remembering stuff like that, but Bill Walsh said it. Noted Bill Walsh, great draft evaluator, said, if you've seen a player do it once, he can do it again. You just have to teach them how to do it. Jalen Milroe can do it. It just needs to be brought out in him. I would much rather take a lottery ticket on Jalen Milroe than I would Shadur Sanders.
I can't argue that. Brian, my one argument is I don't like the quarterback that has to elude out of the pocket every single time and try to make plays happen. I think our offensive line is still good enough to keep a quarterback in the pocket to make a big play happen. And that's crucial. I get it. You got people like Lamar Jackson that could escape the pocket and make a huge play happen. But at the end of the day, that's how you get hurt. Lamar Jackson has gotten lucky besides his poo-poo game where he had to go take a poop, because we all know he had to go take a poop. Nobody here likes Lamar, I'm sure. I mean, he's a great athlete. I get that, but not everybody can do that. I think Jalen Milroe has the possibility of becoming something great, like you said, where you sit him for a year, let him learn the NFL, because the NFL is the elite. You are playing with the best players in the world. Same with Travis Hunter, trying to become a cornerback and a wide receiver. Your time is up, man. You're going to do that for 2 or 3 years. You're going to realize this isn't my thing, man. I got to just play one position. It's just, I hate it. I don't like the 2-position thing. It hasn't been done since Deion Sanders. I don't really think, to be honest. And times have changed. I think it's time to step up, play your one position, be best at that. You're not going to be at the cornerback room, and you're not going to be in a wide receiver room at the same time. And there's only so much one person could do. Adam says, what's Milroe's record against Michigan? Nobody cares, Adam. Regular season games.
He's got to hate you on
He
Michigan.
does. He always has to. He always has to. He's a
can.
Michigan fan,
So
yes.
he's speaking of was it the Citrus Bowl? No, that was the Outback Bowl. Or
The bowl that didn't matter.
whatever the hell it's
No, I'm
called
kidding.
now. The game in Tampa. I'm calling it the Outback Bowl. It was a much better sponsor than ReliaQuest. Anyway.
Yes, thank you.
So anyway, I don't even, what is Relia? It doesn't matter.
Brian, did we just
Anyway.
become best friends?
That game was played in a monsoon for a half and half of each team had opted out. It's who cares? I don't care about that game. I don't even evaluate bowl games anymore. I quit. I don't watch them anymore, except the playoff games. I just quit. I quit using bowl games unless I absolutely hadn't watched a player all season and they were playing in a bowl game and the 5% chance that player actually played in the bowl game. Like I didn't really get to see Harold Fannin earlier in the year, but I got to see him at the bowl game in Mobile where he was trying to set the tight end receiving record, and he caught 17 balls for 201 yards in front of me, which was the second straight year I got to see bowl game history, by the way, because I was there for the Frank Gore 340-yard rushing game, Frank Gore Jr. the year before. So both of those happened in Mobile. Good stuff. But so bowl game evaluation is garbage at this point now with the opt-outs and everything else.
I hate that. I do. People say I'm just going to sit out because my NFL career is – no, you have to still be evaluated by these teams. You play in those big games. That's what you're known – that's what you're supposed to be known to do, I think. Granted, Chad hates this. Chad hates – he said, why not sit him out, right? You're the one that said that, Chad?
I wonder if it's going to change now that like these guys are basically under contract. They're getting paid differently. But I just said like I was not shocked when these certain teams get in the bowl game and one of their players is like, I'm expecting to be a top 10 draft pick. Like I'm not risking it all for my college that I spent really 2 years playing at. But
Sam, really quick.
It doesn't bother me as much.
What do you think of that, Sam, real quick? Players opting out to play bowl games. This is the last time you're playing with your brothers if you haven't gone through the transfer portal several times.
You think you would want to go out like what got you to that point? That's just how I would be. That's me. Even if I know I had some big contract coming up, I still want to have my last big game with my brothers on the field. I want to try my best, and I want to do our best to be the best. So me, if it was me, I'm playing. You know what I'm saying? I see what you're saying. Well, you could be in the first round, dude, and you want to risk getting hurt and not getting to that level. That's something that you gotta ask yourself. What do you want out of this sport that you've been in your whole life? I would play. That's just me. I'm going to go out there for my last time with these guys. Some of these guys aren't going to the pros. I want to go out there. I want to win with them, man. It's another one more battle for us out here that got you here. You want to keep going. So I think they should play. That's me, but that's my opinion.
I have two thoughts on it. One, until the NFL punishes these guys by drafting them lower, it's not going to change. And the NFL has showed they don't give a shit. So,
Exactly.
and
Right.
the second is Every college coach wants to make a bowl game because they get 15 extra practices. They'll all say that till they are out of breath. Why not just treat it like a second spring practice? You know, we know these players, these guys, you were great for us. If you want to play, great. Come on. If you don't, whatever. We're going to get an extra 15 practices and a game film evaluation on these guys that are, well, before the transfer portal got crazy, are going to be here next year, right? And especially the way colleges are just basically scrapping spring games now anyway. You know, that's essentially the only full game environment you may get a check on some of these guys that are like freshmen or whatever that are going to be on your team the next year.
Yeah.
So,
great.
yeah, that times are changing come college football with between the transfer portal and the NIL. It's just a different thing. So we'll see how that works out. But we got basically one more topic for you if you got the time, Brian. But it's kind of a pretty open one. Essentially, you had given us your scenario where you think the Browns have a really good chance of packaging one of their third rounders and the second round pick to move up. Hypothetically, let's say that doesn't happen. The Browns are picking 33, 67, 94, and then 104. So close to 5 picks in the top 100, which is where there's typically a pretty good amount of talent dispersed. We were kind of hoping that you'd be able to, just based on kind of your own big board or just general player knowledge of where guys are stacked and not where they're going to go, but kind of where they're fit. If you have a couple guys that you think would be a real nice breakdown for the Browns at those few positions. So like around the 30s, the late 60s, and then between 94 and 100.
So essentially, what would you what would you do with the Bengals with those picks?
I wish I could run the Bengals not the way, because then I would actually, do cool pick swaps and stuff like that all the
Spend
cool
some
teams
money.
do. Yeah. It's really a position by position. So let's say they stay at 33, don't trade back in the first round. They didn't take a quarterback at 2, which I hope they don't. If Cam Ward is gone, which he should be. Maybe Milroe falls to 33 and you take him there. Maybe you really like Jackson Dart and he's your guy at 33. If I don't get it myself, I have him at 98 overall on my board, but there's a lot of love out there for Louisville quarterback Tyler Shuck.
I got him on my mock right now.
I don't get it.
So here, can I tell you really quick? I'm sorry to interrupt. Toughness of schedule is a thing coming out of college and going into the NFL. Do you believe that?
Yeah, but which college you're talking about that he played for? Which one of the 4?
Right. That's another thing that I hate is the transfer portal now and the NIL. It's all garbage. I think it all sucks. I almost want to step away from college football, but that's how you watch these guys grow, and that's how you know you're going to have to pick. So I don't like the transfer portal. What are you going to do when them players in a Super Bowl and they announce what college they went to? Yeah, I was at Auburn. I was at Alabama. I was at, which would never probably happen, but, Ohio State, Michigan, whatever. Like, you're going to announce 4 schools that you were with or the last one you were with. I think it's kind of ignorant and stupid. I don't like the transfer portal. And that's going to change your question.
Yes, it's huge. That is the only benefit of the stupid college realignment that we've seen in the last couple of years is the fact that you pretty much get good on good evaluations every week now in the SEC and the Big Ten. That is the only thing that was worthwhile. That's the only reason Southern Cal and UCLA and Oregon and Washington being in the Big Ten is any good is the fact you get to see Oregon play Ohio State, Oregon play Michigan. The rest of it's complete garbage. I don't want to watch South Carolina play Missouri or Texas or Oklahoma. It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. I guess it's a cool road trip for the fans that have that kind of money, but whatever. But the Big Ten, you're playing 9 games, and it's pretty much outside of a handful of, the Northwesterns and the Purdues and the like. It's a good matchup every week, right? And that is great for evaluating these players.
Especially with your job, because you literally have to watch these guys grow from where they're coming from. So I get that.
So let's before everybody transferred up, because I overheard some NFL types talking during Senior Bowl week that they actually put a red flag on an FCS player now if he didn't transfer up, because they're like, what was he afraid of? We know if he's good enough to be at the Senior Bowl and good enough to be considered a first, second round player, why didn't he transfer up? He could have. He was being offered to come up. Why didn't he? I think it came up when people were talking about Carson Vinson as offensive tackle from Alabama A&M and Gray Zabel from North Dakota State, who could be a first-round pick Thursday night. But why didn't he transfer up? So that's a question now, because I used to look forward to seeing the schedules come out in those early week games where I knew I would get to watch North Dakota State play against an Iowa, right? Because I know then the 4 or 5 players that were NFL prospects for North Dakota State, I was going to get to see them against a Big Ten team, not against the insurance salesman they were playing against South Dakota, right? I want to see them play against guys that's going to be their contemporaries in the NFL in a few years. But now most of those guys are coming up, right? So like last year, I think there was 10 players from the Sun Belt Conference, which is still FBS, but it's, not the Power 4 or whatever. This year, there's going to be 1. And that's going to be Mike Green from Marshall. He's probably going to be a first-round pick. Outside of that, they may have 1 other player drafted in the other 256 picks.
Yeah.
And because all those guys are transferring to the ACC and SEC schools.
And that's what I think is going to ruin it for a lot of college football. Like, you got these teams like Ohio State and Michigan that they had their undefeated seasons. That's not going to happen anymore. You're going to have teams that lose games because of the transfer portal. You're going to have these teams that are almost no-name teams picking up elite players just to rack up, I'd say, a Big Ten team. And it's going to happen. It happened already.
You know how excited I was last year that South Carolina was 9-3 in the regular season?
Right.
They were considered almost, everybody said they should have been a playoff team.
Yeah. Sorry, Chad.
I was the only one making that argument they shouldn't have been, but it's like.
Oh, yeah. We're an hour and 8 minutes in. Sorry, Brian, if we're keeping you a little bit longer.
Dude, I don't care.
Do you have a time for 1 or 2 more questions? You guys got anything else?
Let's go.
Yeah, I would love to just hear a little bit down the chain, because so we've talked so much when you're not like a draft evaluator. We talk so much about. I've seen more information than I'll ever need to absorb about Travis Hunter, Carter, and Shedeur Sanders, and maybe a few of the other quarterbacks we might take at 33. I'm mostly interested about what players you think might be available at 67, 94, 104, and beyond, who, fit maybe some of the Browns need positions.
Throw a
and
position
then
out there.
So let's just say we took Hunter or Carter 2 overall, and then 33 we either somehow packaged or we took Dart, Milrow, some quarterback. So now that leaves running backs, tight ends, safety, D-line, and tackles kind of all on the board. Kind of who stands out with you for the depth of this draft around 67 and 94?
So we got a 60, so we're looking in the 3rd round now for a running back. Guys kind of fell off maybe out of the chat for a little while now, but I think is going to be a really good NFL running back. Very explosive home run hitter type, Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee. I think he's available there. A lot of momentum picking up for a couple of guys I think are maybe 4th round running backs, but I think could end up in the 3rd round. RJ Harvey out of UCF, dual threat runner, pass catcher, and DJ Giddens, Kansas State. I heard somebody called him the glitch the other day because he's so elusive in the open field, very fast, 4.3. He was a 4.38 guy, I think, at the combine. So I think those are maybe the late third, fourth round targets at running back. If you carry it into the fifth, sixth round, then it becomes you're not looking for a starting running back at that point. You get lucky if they are. The Bengals did with Chase Brown, but mostly, and this is something that I think every fan base, not just Browns fans, Bengals fans, every fan base, and you can even chalk this up to the fourth round, fifth round, sixth round, seventh round. Don't expect those guys to be starters. If they
Let me
are,
ask you. Go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If you get a starter out of the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round, that can almost make your draft, right? But look, I mean, I'm not a big PFF guy. I use them for literally one. I'm not.
Chad,
I literally use them for one thing.
Okay.
I go to the college PFF and see how many special team snaps these guys had, because those are the guys that are going to come off the board. Like, you're thinking, why are they taking this wide receiver over this one? This guy had caught 100 balls for 1,800 yards and had 10 touchdowns. That guy didn't play a lick of gunner on punt team, but this guy did. This guy's going to be active on game days. This guy's going to make my roster. Whereas that guy's not. There was the big wide receiver. I liked him, and I learned this lesson that year, and that's why that completely changed my philosophy on wide receivers and DBs. Was I started looking at special team snaps, because it was this big white receiver out of Westford, David Seals, the fifth, I think was his name. He had a great week at the Senior Bowl. That was very productive in college. Solid athletic testing. Never played special teams. Didn't get drafted. And the Senior Bowl had 12 wide receivers that year. 5 of them didn't get drafted. And Jim Nagy came out the next year and said, we will not do this again. And so they changed their philosophy, and I changed with them. That's like, you're going to look at a wide receiver. 2 wide receivers one tested really well, one didn't, but I think they're both going to be they're going to be Pro Bowl special team guys. Shamari DK from Florida, he was tested outstanding at the combine. I think he's a 6th round guy. Ricky White from UNLV, he tested poorly, but he blocked 3 punts this year. Blocked 3 punts. Wow. He's going to play on every special teams for you. Those guys are going to get drafted. They're going to make rosters.
That's insane.
All right.
I had a quick question for you on running back Cameron Scadaboo. Where do you see him going in this draft?
I cannot place him in this draft. I've got a 4th round grade on him right now.
4th round?
I think he goes. I think he could go in the 4th round.
I think his stock went up after. I think he was already a good player, but I think his stock went up with his bowl game. I think a lot of that.
And I agree that game that if you hadn't heard of Cam Scadaboo before that game, you knew of him after that game.
Right.
He's super fun to watch. He's a bowling ball. Right. He is some of the.
I call him a fire hydrant with legs.
Yeah. To me, outside of Ashton Genty, I think he has the best contact balance of any running back in this draft class.
Nice.
But he's 4.65, 40. He's not going to hit that home run for you. He's going to break tackles, short yardage, goal line back. Hell yeah. Give me Cam Scadaboo. I'm not taking him to be my number 1. To me,
like a 3 down back.
I don't think he is.
More of a package,
that's why I think he gets 4th round value for me. Could he go higher? Like if you're somebody like Kansas City, somebody like that who doesn't have a lot of needs on the roster, and you're picking late in the 3rd round, send him there, somewhere like that. Philadelphia, I'm just throwing out names. Maybe that not necessarily needs for them, but just throwing it out there. Teams like that to just draft guys, tend to draft guys like that and make everybody look stupid later on for not. To me, I think he's tailback Mike Allstott.
Okay.
I think he was given Clevelanders shades of fond memories of that Peyton Hillis year, and I feel like
That's
they
me.
watched him play that bowl
Y'all
game.
trying to get
and
another Madden cover?
a lot of
Yes.
them are like, "Ooh, I remember
No
having
Madden
just
covers,
that big
no Madden.
downhill
Right.
back running into guys."
That was me. He reminded me of Peyton Hillis. That's me. That was all me. I'm not
Knew it.
100% on the guy. I'm not. Sam, I know is for sure.
I
know-
like he's not giving up. You better
Coach?
pack a lunch and bring a couple guys because he's gonna keep pushing until he's brought down. I like that.
I want to say, let's see, let me confirm this for sure before I go telling lies. I've got him 112 on my board. So if you look at a range of plus or minus 15, it's not out of the realm of possibility he goes at the bottom of the third round, right? And I think the further down you go, the range can increase, either way. So like I said, I'm not ruling him out in the third round, but I think early fourth round it feels right.
Yeah. I think it's interesting you brought that up because I love like just draft philosophy and like the idea of like how are GMs doing this, and I like to bring that up a lot because fans like have this idea of like, well, I'm looking at one person's board and this player's ranked 114th, but there's another player ranked 104. How did this team take the 114th over the 104 without thinking like everybody grades these guys so independently that they might have had him switched, and not to mention they might have him in a completely different like tier. And like you said, at the top of the draft, maybe you've got 3 or 4 guys that are like, oh, these 4 guys have about the same grade. What's our team need? As you get down the draft by like late in the first round, your window of like players with similar grades raises, and then as you get into the second, third round, you're going between like groups of 15, groups of 20 who all kind of fit your need. And I just don't think as fans we know the players well enough to kind of grasp that idea of you've got 20 players in this bundle who could shift anywhere from like 94th to 120th, and that's not weird. It just the team that he fits may not be picking at 94 or 98 or 102, right? So and why teams do trade ups, why a team might say like I have nobody left in this tier, and another team picking 14 picks later wants to give you a 5th to move up because they have that guy.
Oh, we had 0 problems this entire damn show. Huh.
He's
There
back.
he is. He's back.
We're
He
back.
is
We're back.
back.
You're back.
That
You
was
bounced
quick.
for about 5 seconds, Brian.
Oh, I was like, well, I don't know
Sorry
what
about
happened.
that. Sorry.
Mike cut you for a couple seconds. He must have said something.
I thought we run out of airtime there, and they just
No.
cut us off.
No.
I thought I heard
we
Roll
did.
Tide. I'm sorry. No, I'm kidding.
So I think the last thing that I wanted to kind of bring up was the tight end position, because we all think David Njoku is good enough to come in and start next year, but everybody's kind of jonesing for a second tight end or a future tight end. You had mentioned Harold Fanning Jr. earlier, who I think is maybe the most unanimous player that all Browns fans want. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact of, just like we love Ohio State guys, he plays at Bowling Green. We're very familiar with him. So the 2-part question is, A, where do you actually see him going? Because Browns fans, I know some that would take him 33 because they're like, don't care, love him, he's my guy. Where do you think he's actually going to fall to the reality of the NFL? And then, assuming we aren't able to get him there, who is another tight end after that we may be able to get our hands on?
I think he is available at 67? Is that your third round pick? I think he's available there.
Okay.
I think we're going to see 3 tight ends come off the board fairly early. Like I think Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, they're gone in the first 14 picks. I feel confident about that. I think both are gone by the time the Colts come off the board at 14. There's a lot of smoke right now about LSU's Mason Taylor and the infatuation that the Eagles have with him, and maybe even taking him at 32. I don't think they're actually going to use pick 32. I think they'll end up trading out. But he could be a guy that they could target top of the second round in a trade back scenario as well. After that, I think there's a drop off. I have Fannin as my tight end 4. But I think there's a drop off between him and Taylor. It's pretty wide, in my opinion. They're 2 completely different players. I think Fannin's more of an H-back than he is a pure tight end. He tries to block. I mean, he tries.
More chips than anything.
Yeah, he's not a blocker. He's not. If you're lining him in line, play to play, you're doing it wrong. You want to get him out in space and let him get matched up on a linebacker or safety and profit, right? If you're going 12 personnel, Njoku is going to be your inline guy, and let Fannin get loose down the field in that scenario. I would not be surprised if Miami's Elijah Arroyo gets drafted before Harold Fannin. He's a prototypical size tight end, has some injury issues to answer for, but he was very good at the Senior Bowl, as was Terrence Ferguson from Oregon, who I think could be, if the Browns are looking tight end, could be another target in that
That guy's
early
had
third.
some amazing catches, man.
Yeah.
I've watched him. Yeah.
After that, I mean, I think there's a very real chance Gunnar Helm from Texas goes in the third round, although he tested poorly. I have a early fourth round grade on him. Further into the fourth, fifth round area, Arondé Gadsden from Syracuse. I think his dad played in the NFL for a while. Joshua Simon from South Carolina. I'm a big fan of him as another like a Harold Fannin type move tight end. He was South Carolina's leading receiver in receptions, yards, and touchdowns this season.
Adam says Lackey or Lachey from Iowa would be a good addition to the Browns.
Yeah, late round guy, fifth, sixth, seventh round. Probably going to help your special teams out in that area. I want to say that in my 7-round mock draft, I mocked them late. UCLA tight end Maliki Matavao. He's a big brute blocking tight end with some. Didn't catch a lot of passes at UCLA. I'll say that. But I think goal line packages, he's going to help you out tremendously in that way. I think it was 6th, 7th round. I had them taking him.
Yeah, the Browns had 3 of those guys. So for tight ends, the Browns brought 3 of them in for their 30 visits. I was surprised that one of them was Mason Taylor, but you never know about trade around situations at the top of the first round. They also had Harold Fannin in, and then Elijah Arroyo were the 3 that they had in for visits. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean something. I hear guys get drafted all the time who never came in to meet the team, but I think it was interesting that those 3 were on there.
So that is very good because, like, with Taylor, like I said, I think that 33, like that could be a guy they're looking at there, or trade. Maybe he falls into the middle of the second round and you trade up from 67. Because we talked about trading up from 33 in the first round. We didn't talk about maneuvering third and fourth round. And I think that's where you start happening in that middle second round. That's why you bring in guys like Arroyo, Taylor, and Fannin. I think they believe they could probably get him in round 3.
We got about 4 minutes left. If that's cool with you, are there any diamonds in the rough as of right now for you that you think would not be good for just the Browns, but any team? Like, who are your diamond in the roughs? If you got 2 or 3 of them,
let me say Homer for one. I don't think he's going to get drafted. I think as a UDFA, everybody's going to have at least one make their team. I think South Carolina wide receiver Delvon Campbell is going to make a roster as a wide receiver, undrafted wide receiver. He really didn't do anything this season at South Carolina until the last 3 games, and he exploded in the last 3 games. Big play. He's a big threat down the field, big play receiver. Is a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, special teams, played all their special teams units, transferred from Nevada. Like I said, I think he can make a roster as an undrafted player. A linebacker was highly productive, tested well, but played at Buffalo. Sean Dolak is a guy that I think is going to go 5th, 6th, 7th round that could have an early impact just because of his instincts. He plays like a Tasmanian devil out there. And Nevada safety Keaton Crawford, transferred from Texas, great athlete, good tackler at Nevada. I don't know that he gets drafted. If he does, it's late.
Okay.
All right.
I mean that's good. I mean that's exactly what I wanted. Some some depth that could be picked up in a later round that
Yeah,
could possibly.
I agree with you. You got to move some of those late picks, but you just never know if the Browns end up taking some of those 6th and 7th. It's just curious to know if it would be kind of a fun coincidence if they popped on one of these guys that you had covered.
One more guy. I think he's probably in the 4th round, but he's an undersized edge rusher, but had like 14 sacks this year, Virginia Tech, transferred from Florida. Antoine Powell Ryland. He bends around the edge, man, like a F1 car. And he's a guy I think is a sub package pass rusher, 4th round, maybe even 5th round. Because like I said, he's undersized. He's like 6'2", 245, 6'1", 245, something like that. He's not going to be an everyday defensive end. Every down defensive end.
All right.
Man.
That was very interesting, man, and a lot of knowledge.
I'm gonna have to rewatch this. Actually,
yeah.
we're literally gonna have to like.
I was taking notes as we were going, man. I was taking notes. I'm the oldest guy of the group here at almost 50, and I still use pen and paper and pencil, man. That's just how I do, Brian.
There's probably people watching like, why is Chad always just
see, look, Brian, one more time. Show everybody what's up. See? All right.
Yeah, everybody show us your pens.
No. But I'm old school, man. Like I like writing that stuff down.
Your guys' social security number is 7. Brian,
Brian, that is a plethora of information. We rarely have somebody on that knows as many prospects or as much of the history of the draft. There just isn't that many people, period, to have on that have this kind of history. So it was awesome to get a chance to chat with you and have you go over some of the deeper stuff with us. So thanks a lot for that.
Hey, reach out anytime, guys. I'm more than happy to do it.
Absolutely.
Maybe we might after this draft is done at some point.
That's what I was going to say. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks after the draft,
we
could
have
you
recap
on.
Just to talk about the guys that we actually brought in.
Yeah,
that'll
absolutely.
That'll definitely make you want to do some Browns homework.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, definitely. Because
maybe after you've gotten like a nice like week of rest and finally get to like take a breather. But yeah, at some point we should have you come on and talk about the guys that the Browns brought in and just see what your thoughts are on the talent and what our expectations should be, because we wear the Browns hat. So as soon as they draft everybody, all Browns fans are like, oh, this 6th round wide receiver, I think we got to steal. And like, I would love to hear from somebody a little less partial who could be like, yeah, he's going to be a special teamer maybe. So
Right.
I like the reality of it.
Sam, you got anything to close, man?
I was doing a quick math real quick because you said 1990 till now, man. It's 35 years of watching draft, man. I had to go back and do that real quick. And you put your time in, and you know your stuff, man. And it was really great having you on the show. And like we said, I'd like to do a recap show once we get through this draft and stuff. And that's why I'm taking down some notes of some guys you said, because I can go back and I could rewatch the show too, but pen and pencil and paper work good too, right, Brian?
Yep.
But writing some of these down. So when we have you back on, I could go, yep, you nailed Quavion Crawford. Boom, safety. You nailed it. You know what I'm saying? I just like to, I'm writing these things down because I want to see things come to fruition, man. And I know a lot of that stuff happens sometimes. So
Chad was typing like crazy. Everything you were saying, Chad's like, I got it. Notes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't know. For me, like, I'm just typing it down, and I said, there's probably people watching this that are like, why is Chad like constantly?
That's why I said I think Brian was writing the notes for this show today. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah, you hit a lot of stuff that we were like, I wonder if he'll talk a little bit about this, and then you just went like right into it.
But yes, thank you so much for joining us, Brian. Much appreciated, man. We had a great night with you, man. That was awesome. We do really appreciate it, and we'd love to have you back on. I will be in contact with you, and we'll figure out something for the near future.
Yeah, and everybody, the draft is coming up. Check out Draft Countdown. It has everybody that's going to get drafted on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It's somewhere on this site, so check it out. They've done mock drafts for all the different teams through seven rounds, and then they've done some pretty large mocks. Again, the mocks become a bit of a guessing game for fit, and just nobody can possibly know the inside information of it, but it does give you a good idea of like the range at which guys might fall, because there's just a lot of people out there that I know like me who don't know where a guy's really going to end up. We just always high drafting guys you're more familiar with. So yeah, check out the site. It's super comprehensive.
Yeah, Chad. Brian, I'm sorry. We had our mock drafts last week. We didn't have the balls to do it again. So
We'll let you take that one over this time.
Yep.
But
So
yes,
everybody can go to the site Thursday morning. We'll have 3 separate mock drafts up from myself, Brian Lamb, and Brad Menendez. Will all have mocks up on the site, and you can, like I said, you can go up there right now. Today, myself, I had my top 350. Brian Lamb had a top 100, and Pigskin Paul had a top 100. So check those out just to see how. I mean, we 3 people right on the same site, all differing opinions on how we see these guys, and it just goes to show you it's not as exact science.
that's why we like our show, because we all hate each other when we talk football.
In the eye of,
No.
in the eye of the beholder, there's nothing that captures like beauty is in the eye of the beholder, like watching the NFL draft and seeing, one of the guys' reactions to a guy he had ranked 67th going 40th. And it's just, everybody's got to have their own grade. If we were, a lot of guys would be out of jobs for teams if everybody was just going off Mel Kiper's big board. So
Mel Kiper. Again, really quick before we close, guys, join us for the Bearded Browns podcast, Ralph Holly meet and greet down at JB's Tavern, 4305 Brook Park Road. We're going to be there. Me and Sam will be there pretty damn early, but it says from 7:30 to 8:30. And that's a bold-faced lie. I don't know why we put that, but we are going to be there longer. We have a special surprise for you as well. There's going to be Stump Mitchell on there. Stump's agent, Roe, will be there. It is going to be a fun night. Come down, have a drink, have a flatbread pizza, meet Chris, the owner, meet Jenny, the bartender. I got her a shirt.
Dustin Cuck will be on shortly after from the Here We Go Brownies.
If we pick in the first round.
If he's right, well, he's still going to get he's still going to be on down there shortly after that. Hopefully, we do pick at the first our second pick. I don't want to be doing no trade up or trade backs, but he's actually going to be down there at the draft, so he'll kind of be boots on the ground for us and his show too.
And you guys heard it here first from Brian. You better watch through the entire first round, because Browns just might be picking again towards the end.
Brian, thank you again so much. I have his link below if you guys want to check him out. Be sure to follow him. Brian, real quick, social medias that you're on.
Yeah, I'm on X, Twitter at Deep Fried Draft Countdown, the same. And if you're on Blue Sky now, I'm the same there, Deep Fried Draft, and Draft Countdown as well. Just search it, you'll find it. And our YouTube channel, pretty good, if I must say so. YouTube.com/The Draft Countdown.
Brian, we liked you so much. We're going to create our own website just to be with you, and it's going to be called onlydrafts.com.
I love it.
There we go. Excellent.
Until then, we will see you guys this Thursday live at JB's Tavern. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you again, Brian. We appreciate you, man. You gave us not much to look forward to because you're a Cincinnati fan, but in the end of things, you gave us some real big draft news to look forward to. So we appreciate you, man.
Yeah, and like always, it's always go Browns.